Welcome to the podcast where relationships, confidence, and determination all converge into an amazing, heartfelt experience. This is Speaking from the Heart.
Welcome back to episode number 165 of Speaking from the Heart. It's time to believe in yourself. It's time to show that no matter what might be happening, unlocking your hidden potential in your heart means that you're able to see things that oftentimes might not be seen by common curiosity. It's time to explore what is really outside of your comfort zone and to show you what is really not only in your way, but to unlock what might be. It's time to be able to step forward and find your voice. Today's episode is not the same as what we had just covered within the last several weeks. It's not what we had before when it came to even understanding even all the things that we got going on in our life, how we can become better versions of ourselves. Now, last month, I did have an episode called Believe in Yourself that aired October 1st. This time, we're going to believe in ourselves in a completely different way. Now, if you did listen to that episode, which was episode number 155, maybe you want to take a listen to it again. Maybe you might be visiting us for the first time, and maybe you want to check that out just so you have a context for today's episode. But we talked about more so of how we can keep the faith on some days over others, especially when it comes to manifesting that challenging belief that it might be holding us back to create the best version, to be able to understand that we can believe in ourselves. And I would have to say that that episode really gave some context at the very end of how you can create and manifest that existence no matter where you might be in your life. Today's episode is quite different. We really want to explore what it means to connect with your belief in yourself and what might be some of the highs and lows, just in general for that matter, that can create and even hold back from becoming the best version of ourselves. But there's really one important thing that I will talk about later on that will help us to gain that clarity and confidence. But I'm going to hold off on that because let's talk about what it means to even believe. I think that even for myself, we have to explain why it's important to have a basic understanding of what believing is. Believing isn't necessarily worshiping. It's not the same thing as accepting and trusting. It means that you're giving yourself the confidence to say that I want to believe that what you have to say, what you are going to do, will come alive. That's why the word believe is not the same as even putting the word trust in the same sentence, because those are two different types of concepts. I'm sure that many of you might be scratching your head saying, well, I've heard it said this way. Why isn't it the same? I think that believing is actually giving yourself permission. Trust in itself is an external type of permission in which you have to let somebody else in. You actually have to give them the credit so that they are invited in, feeling like they can come out to say anything that is on their minds. And I even had Dr. Lulu recently on this show that really talked about that concept of letting yourself be a radical thinker. But we're not talking about being radical today. We're not even talking about understanding what other people's perceptions are. We're really just talking about you. When's the last time that you even sat back and thought about yourself in this way? Has it been a long time? Has it been since episode 155? Has it been something else that might be prohibiting you from unlocking that potential that I know that you have, but yet you have to acknowledge for yourself? And that's really the key. When we talk about belief, we're talking about yourself. Sometimes when we are even acknowledging that we have these sort of situations, what comes to mind? What we are able to do, what we are able not to do. Some of those aspects, some of those things that are holding us hostage can really throw us into the tiller. It makes us feel like we're being grounded up. We are being questioned, challenged, even being viewed as somebody that is completely different of how we should be perceiving even ourselves. Yeah, I know. Even ourselves can even challenge ourselves. Now, if that isn't meta, I don't know what is. But even for me, I've had these meta discussions. I've had these types of conversations with other people. It has even thrown me under the bus of why it's so important to just think about and just simplistically accept that you can believe in yourself, even if you had believed in yourself in the past. You see, belief isn't just about what you might accept. It's about what's inside your heart that you're willing to accept. Aha! Now we're getting to the real depths of what this is all about. What is inside your heart that maybe you haven't written down in such a long time? Maybe you haven't envisioned what that looks like. Way back in episode 13, I talked about the lighthouse. That lighthouse is what is so important for me, that guiding principle. Way back when I was struggling with my suicide, when I was struggling with thoughts of inadequacy. I did not believe in myself, ladies and gentlemen, and that belief was tainted by all the different things that were happening in my life internally. Sure, I've even mentioned on this show on a variety of different occasions after that of how the external pressures got the best of me. But that's not what this is always all about. We ultimately make a choice. That choice is what decides whether we are really going to work on ourselves or not. If we really are afraid of unlocking what is inside of our human being, our human condition, then all of this is for nothing. Even as we get towards the end of this year and we enter this very festive holiday season, you might be even saying to yourself, can I pull this off? Can I make dinner for Thanksgiving and Christmas? Do I have money in the bank account, especially after being really traumatized, even unfortunately debt-ridden this year because of the cost of everything going up, to be able to give my kids Christmas presents, to be able to feed everyone that will be coming to the house? Do I have to take a loan from a bank? Will they even approve me to be able to pay for all these things that I have on my plate? What am I going to do? That last question is something that I've always asked myself, even in the last 10 months, which has been some of the most hardest moments of my life, trying to figure out what's the best way to move forward when I felt like nobody believed in me. Bonus episode number 1 of this podcast really dived into why I have this kind of conversation today. That episode recorded a time in my life in which I was really struck down by an unfortunate series of events by someone that had really made me feel inadequate. But yet at the same time, it was because of something that happened externally. I let that get the best of me internally. I could have changed the narrative, but I chose not to. And that led me into a spiral that I had been dealing with. And even to this day, sometimes rears its ugly head, and I have to keep on beating it down, knowing that it's no longer who I am. I think that we have to come to peace sometimes when it comes to these types of situations, and peace looks like it's different for so many different people. Peace in itself means that we actually have to acknowledge that we have to have solemn quiet. And sometimes that solemnness, that ability to sit in silence, to be able to actually process what's happening around us, is something that I really have cherished over the last few years. It means actually stepping aside, knowing that it's okay to feel the way that I do, but also at the same time, I have to let myself go. I have to make myself feel comfortable with all the things that are happening around me. It means that I have to feel like I am in charge of what is ultimately going to happen. And sometimes being in charge is something that really scares me to death. As I even run my own business and help others become the best versions of themselves, me, an owner of a coaching business that's really trying to figure out what's the best way to move forward, can also struggle with this as well. Why would I be so open about it? I've talked about this on some of my earlier episodes with some of my first several dozen guests about why it's so important to keep pushing myself forward. How do they push themselves forward? I was really wrestling at that time what it meant to have sheer confidence, to really believe in myself again after all these things that have transpired in my life and trying to figure out where my place is on this earth. But there was one thing that I wasn't considering that today I want to share with you that might be helping you to overcome this limiting belief that you have in yourself, which is if there's nobody else that's standing in your way, the only person that is left that might be holding you up is you. Yes, I'm talking about you, the person listening to this, that might be holding this back from being able to believe in yourself. To gain clarity and confidence, it means that we actually have to love ourselves. We have to acknowledge that we have a place on this earth, that we have gifts that we can give to others, that we are able to share with no strings attached, that no matter what happens, regardless of what any type of person might say or do, they have no power over what we have as beating to our own drum, as even Dr. Lulu has said during last month's interview. It's one thing to tell ourselves that we are not going to be held back by other people, but it's a whole other conversation when we say that we are the ones that are holding ourselves back. And sure, you might be scratching your head and saying, I don't feel that way. Do you really feel that way, or are you not actually attuned to what you got going on in your life? Are you really digging deep, my friends, into understanding why you feel this way and why it continues to keep on coming back every single time? Do you really believe that you feel that way? Or do you think that you haven't had a chance to explore it deeply? One of my future guests that I have on the show, which I'm not going to tell you who it is, and when we get to that episode, I think it's going to be enlightening. I think it has helped me to understand that unlocking our hidden potential means that we have to live in a freedom of self-expression, loving ourselves, and finding the ways in which we can do that objectively or subjectively. For me, I'm a very analytical person. I have to see the proof in the pudding. I have to see the numbers thrown up on the board. I have to have that physical manifestation, whether that's with an award, a trophy, a plaque, seeing it on my dashboard on QuickBooks, or even seeing something else that tells me through validation of texting or communication or by some other means to tell me that I am worth it, that I am capable of being able to help others to see what their true value is, and that I am able to believe in myself once and for all. It's weird because it's like this pendulum. It goes back and forth. One day I feel great, the other day I don't. It might be the energy that's in the air. It might be the atmosphere. It might be the seasons changing. It might be the stress that's coming in our lives from a variety of different aspects, whether that's through our jobs, it's through our bosses. It might be the different physical manifestations that we're having. It might be financial. It might be legal. It might be cultural, societal. It might be where we live. It might be where we go to the grocery store. It might be with people that we thought that we can care about, but we can't care about anymore. It might be because of an argument that we really felt like we were winning, but then we lost because we took it too personally. Do you understand that all these things that I've just rattled off for the last minute could be all the possible reasons as to why you, the person listening to this, can't believe in themselves? You have to be curious about wanting to change, and I can't teach you that. That's something that even on this podcast, I really craved trying to figure out how to create this conversation with you about being curious. But then I started to realize that in my own life, when people told me that I needed to be curious, I refused. I was so set in my ways, I didn't want to hear anybody else's bullshit, just like the bullshit that you might be thinking I'm saying today, that I can't do this. I'm not worthy of doing this. I can't create this for anybody. But if you want to keep standing in your way, that's your choice. But the curiosity got the best of me one day a couple years ago which ultimately allowed me to rent an office in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, to work on what will ultimately become Your Speaking Voice LLC, and then the byproduct that came a year later, Speaking from the Heart. It became full circle for me, ladies and gentlemen. I'm starting to understand why I need to believe in myself yet again. And that even when I hear myself in episode 155 give me that final saying at the end, that final push, it allowed me to connect with myself in a way that I never connected with before. Me. And the me of the past will not be the me of the present or even the future, but for one infinitesimal moment, I could believe that I had the power to change. And ladies and gentlemen, that has been the purpose of why I always believe, even at the end of 2024, entering into 2025, that you have the potential to unlock your heart to see what might be otherwise not seen if you're willing to challenge yourself. This is your time. If this is your first time being on this show, listening to this podcast, take a listen to all the episodes that I've had so far, all 166 of them. This is not even counting today's episode. There is 166 episodes for your liking. You can resonate with all of them. You can resonate with some of them. You can resonate with none of them. But that is your choice. But what I will challenge you in your choice of is whether you want to be stuck in your mud, not willing to change, not willing to believe in yourself again, because you don't see it in yourself. But yet, I see it in you, just like I see it in myself. That's why I always seem to end these shows talking about how I see it in you. You, the people that I might have never met before in my life, I believe in you. So if you can empower yourself to become the best version of yourself, you can gain the clarity and confidence if you're willing to stop standing in your way today and start challenging those limiting beliefs to believe in yourself yet again. Because there will be people that are ready for you to have that conversation, no matter how tough it is. And yes, although it's external in nature, it's time that you face that one ultimate person that has always been in your way, that has always said no, that has never made you feel comfortable about what you're doing right now. You. And when you tackle you, give me a call. I'm ready to help you become the best version of yourself all over again. Thanks for listening to episode number 165 of Speaking from the Heart, and I look forward to hearing from your heart very soon.
Thanks for listening. For more information about our podcast and future shows, search for Speaking from the Heart to subscribe and be notified wherever you listen to your podcasts. Visit us at www.yourspeakingvoice.biz for more information about potential services that can help you create the best version of yourself. See you next time.